Hello, you are watching Cloud and 5G Live. Today I am joined by Colin Willcock, Chairman of the Board at the 5G Infrastructure Association, who is here to deliver his keynote presentation titled 6G in Europe. Colin is currently the Chairman of the 6G Smart Networks and Services Industry Association 6GIA Governing Board, formerly known as the 5G Infrastructure Association. He is also the chairman of the European Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking Governing Board. He has detailed knowledge and experience of the telecommunications industry, having worked directly and indirectly with many of the major players over a period of 28 years. His roles have included software developer, technical consultant, and technical marketing, standardization and management. Colin has also been very active in the European research ecosystem, including leading a number of award-winning European projects such as TT Medal, DMINT, and Semaphore. Colin is currently Head of Research Alliances at Nokia. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction. So what I'd like to talk about is indeed 6G research at the European level, but maybe start talking a little bit about 5G research and give the fuller picture. So let me just remind you who I'm representing. So I'm representing the 6G Industry Association, and we try and be the voice of European industry on all things 5G and 6G. And when we talk about European industry, we don't limit that to the big players, to Ericsson, Nokia, Telecom. We also include the SMEs and indeed the academics and the research institutes. We even have the verticals there. So we try and have the whole ecosystem within our association so that we can truly represent the voice of Europe. So looking backwards a little bit and starting with 5G research. One of the things that the 6GIA has been doing and will be doing in the future is leading European level research. So we were the private side in a research program or partnership called 5G PPP, which tried to bring leadership to 5G to Europe. And this started sort of around 2014 and 2015 and is now approaching the end phase. And I think looking back, we can see it clearly was a very successful research partnership for Europe. We managed to create many of the key concepts we currently think of as 5G. We had hundreds of contributions to standardization to 3GPP. And beyond that, we also managed to extend the use of this technology beyond the classical telecoms domain and into other industrial sectors like automotive, smart city, smart agriculture, smart media. And that was all within this partnership where we managed to bring this technology to work together with the key stakeholders in these other industrial domains and show that this technology could work. As the last phase, as the last set of projects within 5GPP, we had a so-called ICT 52 project, which tried to link together this 5G world with the future 6G world. So trying to link this existing partnership with the new partnership, which I want to talk about today, the Smart Network and Services, which will hopefully do the same for 6G that we managed to do with 5G, with 5G PPP. And this is a set of now 10 projects which have been running for about a year now and have been looking at all aspects of 6G. And maybe to pick one of those projects to highlight would be the one in the middle, HexaX, which is the European flagship project for 6G technology, which is trying to map out the future path in terms of requirements, use cases, and technologies for 6G. So this is the start of the European level 6G research, this set of 10 projects. But as was said, this is just a stepping stone to the future and the exciting new world of smart network and services. So smart network and services is a new partnership which started at the end of last year. It will be investing something like 900 million euros of public funding, trying to create that leadership for Europe. And the first set of calls has now been submitted and is now under evaluation. So as with 5GPP, this is a research program that is jointly led by the public and the private side. The public side is the European Commission, and the private side is the 6GIA. What are we trying to achieve with this research partnership? Well, there are a series of strategic objectives as shown on this slide. And clearly one of them is trying to do the research and innovation for 6G networks. We're very much at the beginning of the 6G story. 5G is still the key technology which is being deployed and used today. And there's still a lot of development and evolution of 5G. We are currently starting in standardization, the standardization of so-called 5G advanced, which will be the next story in terms of 5G. And that will start being deployed in about 18 months or 2 years. And that will then provide the technological backbone up to probably 2030, which is the first deployment we are imagining for 6G systems. So 6G is a long story. We're now starting with the research of the fundamental building blocks, of the requirements, of the use cases. And we are going to need this 7 to 10 years to actually make sure it's a mature enough technology to deploy and use in the real market. So now is the right time to be starting research on 6G. But let's not forget 5G, which is the technology we are using today and still developing and deploying for many years to come. So as well as developing 6G, this program also wants to look at the broader picture and look at the application side. How can we use 6G? What will be the new use cases, the new areas where we can use it? Things like holographic type communications, immersive XR, digital twins. And we want to do all of this to reinforce the technological leadership of Europe in this area, but also want something somewhat surprising, safeguard European values. And what we mean by that is in Europe, there is more emphasis on certain aspects of use of technology, things like security, the privacy of personal data, for example. And what we need to do is make sure that this new 6G technology has the hooks, the capability to support these concepts of privacy and security so that we can provide that to not just European users, but hopefully users across the world. And lastly, clearly, we have a number of societal challenges which we hope to actually start solving with this technology, be that the green transition and resources, be it the urbanization, low carbon footprint, a whole series of things where we hope this technology can provide a building block to try and find solutions. The scope of this partnership is very broad. We're going all the way from the application layers at the top, all the way down to the physical layer. And we are trying to include a number of new areas and technologies and embed that into the communication systems, be that AI or IoT or cloud. These things we need to somehow bring into the mix to provide the right solution going forward. This is a snapshot of that first work program, which is now closed. And you will see it's a significant investment in terms of public funding, 240 million euros. And we're looking to start somewhere around 35 projects. Currently, the proposals are being evaluated to select that set of 35 from all the proposals that are being submitted. But what's interesting is just to see what was the high-level structure of this call, where we'll be looking to actually invest the money. Unsurprisingly, on the right side, most of the money was talking or looking to do research in 6G. And that's perhaps not surprising, but you'll notice there's also a significant investment on 5G evolution. And the rationale here is that as well as 5G being further developed, it is not clear at the moment whether 6G will be a revolutionary technology or an evolutionary technology. And it might be that that evolution of 5G is the path to 6G. And today it is unclear where many of the features which we talk about as typical for 6G, whether they will first be seen in 5G Advanced or first seen in 6G. And that means we need to see both of those paths within our partnership, both the evolutionary and the revolutionary. If we look at the roadmap of the overall partnership, we see, or we break things down into 3 phases. So clearly today we're very much in this first phase where we are trying to do this first exploration, this sort of fundamental research into possible concept definitions, possible applications, looking at the requirements, looking at the use cases, trying to decide what 6G will be or what 6G should be. Now, this at first sight seems a bit strange, but it's the way the telecoms world tends to work, that first we define the name of a technology, and then we define what the actual contents is and what it tries to do. We did the same with 3G and 4G and 5G, and we're doing the same with 6G. We have the name, but quite what that will be, that still isn't quite clear. We have some good candidates, and clearly the work program shows a number of areas where we see the need to invest to try and do fundamental research to decide whether that technology is mature enough and what sort of solutions would actually provide the solutions we are looking for. The second phase is more about trying to put those pieces together. These cellular systems are incredibly complicated. With 10 years from first research to a final deployed thing with the right quality. And it's a big effort to actually put together the fundamental building blocks into a system which provides that end-to-end optimized performance that we need. And there's also many things to do with business models and automation and things like this that we also need to bring into the mix to make sure at the end of it, we really do have a system that provides the solutions that we need for the future. The third phase is more than looking at the evolution of 6G and applying this technology in new areas. So trying to look at the various different so-called verticals, the non-telecoms industrial domains where we wish to apply this technology and make sure that it fits there and evolve the standard to make sure that it meets those requirements and we can actually effectively and with the right performance and quality provide solutions there. So that's what we're planning to do. Big plans. Just in one slide to sort of sum up where we are in this overall picture. So we have started Smart Networking Services. We have the legal act that's gone through the European Council to create this joint undertaking. We have the funding for the next 7 or 8 years to try and bring that leadership to Europe. We have successfully completed the first call in terms of we have asked for the proposals and received the proposals for that set of projects. We are currently evaluating those, and we hope that by the end of this year we can have completed that selection, have the contracts ready, so the beginning of next year, either the end of this year or beginning of next year, we can start this large set of projects and continue this 6G story in Europe. At the same time, we are trying to write the next chapter. So together with the other members of the association, and other external parties, we're trying now to create the next work program. We're trying to see where there are gaps, where there are needs. We're trying to define that path for future European research in communication systems. And we will then create a work program for next year and the following year, which hopefully will then provide the right path to the future. We also have managed to create within the association a stakeholder group which represents a fairly broad community. We have managed to increase the membership of the association about 250% over the last 6 months, bringing in new members. And this is important because we want to make sure we have the right solutions, that we're asking the right questions for Europe. And indeed, not just for the Europe, globally. We need a global 6G standard that solves the world's problems. And to do that, we need input and support and active participation from a large ecosystem. Indeed, let me take the opportunity of inviting you to join us, both either within the association or within the Smart Network Services. We would welcome more people getting involved. I've talked about trying to create the next work program. We would welcome help there to try and make sure we have the right areas to research, that the right areas are funded to make sure that we have the right system, the right solutions. As well as trying to mobilize this stakeholders group within the association, we're also trying to link to other partnerships. So other partnerships within the European Horizon Europe funding framework. Partnerships like KDT, which is looking at components and hardware. There's also many others in mobility, in optical fiber, in security. Many of these we are working together trying to find an integrated solution for Europe going forward. We're also trying to make connections with the national initiatives. There is significant funding at the national level for 6G in places like Finland and France and Germany. And it would be excellent if we can have some form of alignment there so that we're not duplicating funding or trying to compete, but try and do things in a synchronized, orderly way. And lastly, as said, we want to have a global standard. And this means we need to work with other parts of the world. So we have already had a number of discussions with many regions in the world, be that North America, be that India, China, Japan, Korea. And indeed, we have signed our first set of MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding, with Japan. We will shortly sign one with China. And this shows the willingness to collaborate globally to try and bring that global standard. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the material I wanted to cover. I hope it's been of some interest. What I was trying to show is that Europe is active in 6G. We have a clear plan. We have started the research early with the ICT 52 projects, and we are continuing that story with Smart Network and Services. It's an exciting time to get involved. I would welcome anyone who is interested in this to get in contact. The details are on this slide. You can look at the website. It'll be great to build a winning community for Europe and for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Moving on now to our Q&A session. How can organisations get involved in the Smart Networks and Services Partnership?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that leads on from what I was just saying. So the Smart Network and Services, this joint undertaking, has these work programs, these calls for projects. So quite simply, you can look on the official European website, look for these calls and get involved and make proposals. And most of the calls are open to most people. There are obviously some rules about being part of an organization within a European country or an associated country, but they're fairly broad, those rules. So many parts in the world can get involved in the projects in that way. If you wish to be more proactive, if you wish to really get involved, I would recommend trying to join my association. Now, obviously I'm biased here. I would love to have more members, but the rationale here is that by being part of the association, you have much more visibility into what's going on. So you have the ability to influence and see the work program much earlier and see which directions these research programs should take. What should be the areas we should be looking in? What are the priorities? It also gives you more insight into the relation with the European Commission and what's going on there. And we have a number of working groups which enable you to influence the European view on things like spectrum or security or vision. So if you look on the website, the 6gia.eu, you can see all the details about membership if you're interested. And you'll also find links there to the smart network and services if you're just interested in looking at that directly.
Brilliant, thank you. Does an organisation need to be a member of the 6GIA to submit a project proposal in the Smart Networks and Services Partnership?
I think this is a very important point, and I think we need to make this very clearly that you do not have to be a member of the 6GIA to submit a proposal to the Smart Network and Services. There are a small number of calls within the overall work program which are closed to only 6GI members, but it's something like, I don't know, 10% or 15%. There are very specific reasons why those are closed to do with needing a long-term commitment. Clearly, a project typically is 2 or 3 years. But if, for example, you are trying to build a demonstration platform which will evolve over the life of the partnership, so over 8 to 10 years, in that situation, it is of an advantage if there is some commitment. And I think that's certainly from the European Commission side, I get the feeling that joining the association is some form of commitment. It shows that you're not just there to take the money, you're interested in getting involved in the ecosystem and really trying to drive this forward.
Brilliant, thank you. When will 6G happen and what will it bring?
Yes, when will 6G happen? I think the current expectations is the first deployments will happen around 2030. And it sounds an awful long way away. It sounds like a science fiction date. But in actual fact, if you look at the time between now and then, there are many things we need to do. And as said, we really are just starting the fundamental research at the moment and the requirements. And there's much work to do in not just in research and innovation, but also in standardization, trying to make a system of the right quality. What will it be? There is a surprising agreement at the moment across most of the world about some of the key technology components that are seen. And I think for me, the most compelling thing is this ability to try and tie together the physical and digital world. So the concept is that as we go to higher and higher frequencies, we get to the point where we can use the communication system not just to exchange information, but we can also use it as a sensing network to actually see where things are located, where things are on your desk, where you are sitting. Why does this change the world? Well, if you combine that with the ability to transfer far more data, then you have a situation where things like digital twins, which today you can build digital twins today, absolutely, using 5G technology, you can build digital twins, and they're pretty good. But the closer you can get the digital world to the physical world, the more use that digital twin is, because the more accurately you can use that to extrapolate what will happen in the future. And because 6G will, through the sensing and through the increased data rate, will allow a far closer coordination, alignment between the digital and the physical world, then these digital twins become far more, how can I say it? They give us a far better insight into what the future will likely hold. We have the ability then to model something like a factory with such detail that we know what is going to go wrong in the future, and we can change that before it happens. And even more exciting, we can model ourselves. We can have a situation where you could be modeled very, very accurately in the digital domain. And we can see how a therapy or what therapy would be best for you, how a medicine, how your body would react to a medicine, whether that's good or bad. We could tailor a medicine to a specific syndrome, a specific situation, try it out before we actually give it to the patient to make sure it works. That's an exciting world.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Colin. Okay, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you for your time, Colin, and for your fantastic presentation and your insights into the future of the European Mobile Network. And thanks also to the audience for watching. Make sure you stay tuned, though, to check out the rest of the speakers coming up here at Cloud and 5G Live.